The ship came out of faster-than-light travel with a soft hum. Admiral Quan Te stood at the bridge window and looked at the massive station floating in space. Nexus Prime, the capital of the Galactic Concord, a place where thousands of alien species came to trade, talk, and make deals. And today, humanity would meet the rulers of the galaxy for the first time. "It is bigger than I expected," said Dr. Yuna Han. Standing beside him, she was the chief scientist of the delegation, a woman with sharp eyes and a calm voice. The reports did not do it justice. Admiral Quan nodded slowly. Humans had only discovered faster-than-light travel 60 years ago. In the grand scale of the galaxy, they were newborns. The Concord had ruled for thousands of years. They had seen species rise and fall like waves on a beach, and now they had called humanity to discuss integration terms. Commander Jinsu walked up behind them. He was a tall man with a hard face and cold eyes. He said nothing, but his presence spoke volumes. He trusted no one, and he had already studied everything they knew about the Concord. His conclusion was simple. "Be careful." Ambassador Nari Wu joined them as the ship began its approach. She was older than the others, with gray in her hair and steel in her spine. She had spent her whole life in diplomacy. She knew how to smile while hiding a knife. "Remember," she said quietly, "we are here to listen first. We do not know what they want from us, but I suspect it is not friendship." The docking process took an hour. Alien ships of every shape and size floated around the station. Some looked like insects. Some looked like crystals. Some looked like nothing humans had ever imagined. When the airlock opened, a group of tall creatures with pale blue skin and 4 arms waited for them. They wore robes of silver and gold, and they looked at the humans the way a person might look at a stray dog. "Welcome to Nexus Prime," said the lead alien. His voice was flat and bored. "The High Arbiter will see you now. Follow." They walked through long hallways filled with aliens of every kind. Some stared, some whispered, some laughed. Dr. Yuna Han noticed that none of them looked at the humans with respect. They looked at them with amusement or pity. The Grand Assembly Hall was enormous. It could fit a small city inside. Thousands of seats rose in circles around a central platform, and most of them were filled with representatives from across the galaxy. At the highest seat sat High Arbiter Velos. He was ancient, with skin like cracked stone and eyes that glowed faint purple. He had ruled the Concord for 300 years. He had seen empires fall, and he clearly thought humans were not worth his time. "Ah," Velos said, his voice echoing through the hall. "The humans, the newest children to stumble into the stars. Come, stand before us." Admiral Quan Te led his delegation to the center platform. He stood straight and met the High Arbiter's eyes without fear. Around them, aliens watched with curiosity or contempt. "We have called you here to discuss your future," Velos continued. "The galaxy is vast and dangerous. Young species like yours rarely survive without guidance. The Concord offers you protection, safety, a place in our great civilization." He waved one hand, and a hologram appeared in the air. It showed a document filled with alien writing. "This is the Integration Treaty. Sign it, and you will become part of the Concord. You will provide workers and soldiers to serve the greater good. In return, we will share technology with you. We will protect you from threats you cannot understand. You will be safe." Ambassador Nari Wu stepped forward. "May we review the full document before signing?" Velos smiled. It was not a kind smile. "Of course. You have 3 of your Earth days." The delegation was given quarters in a lower section of the station. The rooms were small and plain. The message was clear. Humans were not important guests. Dr. Yuna Han spent the entire night reading the treaty. She translated every line, checked every clause, and cross-referenced everything with what they knew about other species who had signed similar deals. By morning, her face was pale. "It is worse than we thought," she told the others. "This treaty makes us slaves in everything but name. We would provide unlimited labor for their projects. Our soldiers would fight their wars with no say in which wars those are. They would control how many children we can have. They call it workforce optimization. And the technology they would share with us? It is garbage. Outdated machines they no longer use. Commander Jinsu's jaw tightened. What happens to species who sign this? I checked the records, Dr. Yuna Han said. Every junior species that signed an integration treaty is still exactly where they started. Some have been in the Concord for 1,000 years. They have never risen. They have never grown. They serve, and they die. And that is all. Admiral Quante sat in silence for a long moment. Then, he looked at Ambassador Nari Wu. What do you think? She laughed bitterly. I think they see us as tools, cheap labor, cannon fodder. They do not want partners. They want property. Then we have our answer, the Admiral said. On the third day, the human delegation returned to the Grand Assembly Hall. High Arbiter Velos sat on his throne with a satisfied expression. Counselor Thren, a fat creature covered in oily scales, rubbed his hands together with greed. Warlord Korath, a massive beast with tusks and armor-plated skin, stood with his arms crossed, already imagining human soldiers dying for his conquests. Only Sage Alara, an elderly female with soft features and wise eyes, watched the humans with something other than contempt. She saw how they walked. She saw how they held themselves. And she felt the first hint of worry. Have you made your decision? Velos asked. Admiral Quante stepped forward. The hall fell silent. We have read your treaty, he said. His voice was calm and clear. We understand what you are offering, and we decline. For a moment, no one moved. Then whispers exploded through the hall. Counselor Thren's mouth fell open. Warlord Korath stepped forward with a growl. You dare refuse the Concord? We came here hoping for partnership, Admiral Quante continued, ignoring him. We hope to find allies, friends. Instead, you offered us chains dressed in pretty words. We will not wear them. High Arbiter Velos leaned forward, his eyes burning. You do not understand what you are doing, human. The galaxy is dangerous. Without us, you will be alone. You will be vulnerable. You will regret this. Admiral Quante met his gaze without blinking. Perhaps, but we would rather face the darkness free than live in your light as slaves. He turned and walked toward the exit. His delegation followed without hesitation. Ambassador Nari Wu paused at the door and looked back at the thousands of shocked faces. We will remember this, she said quietly. And so should you. Then the doors closed behind them. And the humans were gone. In the silence that followed, Sage Alara spoke softly. We have made a mistake. Velos laughed. They are nothing. They will come crawling back within a year. But Alara shook her head slowly. She had seen something in those human eyes. Something that worried her deeply. They were not afraid, not even a little. And that, she knew, was dangerous. The human ship left Nexus Prime within the hour. No one tried to stop them. No one said goodbye. The aliens simply watched them go with confusion and anger on their faces. How dare these primitive creatures refuse the Concord's generous offer? Did they not understand how small they were? Admiral Quante stood at the bridge window as the station grew smaller behind them. His face showed nothing, but inside, his heart was heavy. He had hoped for something better. He had dreamed of humanity joining a galactic community, learning from elder races, and growing together. Instead, he had found arrogance and greed wearing the mask of civilization. They will come after us, Commander Jinsu said. He stood with his hands behind his back, his eyes fixed on the tactical display. Maybe not today. Maybe not this year. But eventually, they will try to force us to submit. I know. The Admiral replied. We need to be ready. Dr. Yuna Han was already working on her datapad. I have been studying the other junior species, the ones who resisted before signing. The Concord always used the same methods. Economic pressure first. They block trade routes. They spread rumors to other species. They make the target feel alone and desperate. Then, when morale breaks, they offer the treaty again. Most species sign within 10 years, and the ones who do not sign, Ambassador Nari Wu asked. Dr. Yuna Han was quiet for a moment. There are no records of species who held out forever. Either they signed, or they disappeared from history. The weight of those words filled the bridge. Humanity had just defied the most powerful organization in the galaxy. And history said that never ended well, but Admiral Quan Te smiled. It was a small smile. Tired but determined. Then we will be the first. Back on Nexus Prime, the Grand Assembly was in chaos. Representatives shouted at each other. Some demanded immediate military action against the humans. Others wanted to wait and let them suffer. Warlord Korath slammed his fist on his seat with enough force to crack the stone. "Give me one fleet," he roared. "I will burn their little planet and drag the survivors back in chains. This insult cannot stand." High Arbiter Velos raised one hand, and the hall fell silent. "There will be no military action. Not yet." His voice was calm, but cold anger burned in his eyes. "The humans are insignificant. They control one small system at the edge of known space. They have nothing we need. If we send warships, we give them importance they do not deserve." Counselor Thren nodded eagerly. "Yes, yes. Let them rot in isolation. When their people grow hungry and their economy collapses, they will beg us to take them back, and then we can negotiate even better terms." Sage Alara spoke from her seat in the corner. Her voice was soft, but it carried through the hall. "I would advise caution." Velos turned to her with an annoyed expression. "Caution? Against primitives who discovered space travel barely 2 generations ago? Against a species that shows no fear," Ilara replied. "I watched them carefully. When you threatened them, they did not flinch. When Korath spoke of war, they did not panic. They simply looked at us and made their choice." She paused. "That is not normal behavior for a young species facing the Concord," Warlord Korath laughed. "They are fools. Too stupid to understand danger. Or," Ilara said quietly, "they understand something we do not." Where? But no one listened to her. The Concord had ruled for thousands of years. They had crushed rebellions and absorbed civilizations. One small species of soft-skinned mammals from a blue planet was nothing to worry about. On Earth, the news spread quickly. The delegation had returned, and they had said no. Reactions were mixed. Some people celebrated. They called the delegation heroes for standing up to alien bullies. Others were terrified. They said humanity had just painted a target on its back. Admiral Quan Te addressed the United Earth Council in a closed session. He explained everything. The treaty, the hidden clauses, the fate of other junior species. When he finished, the room was silent. "So what do we do now?" asked one of the council members. Commander Jin Su stepped forward with a plan. He had been working on it since they left Nexus Prime. "We cannot expand outward. The Concord controls too much territory, and they will be watching our borders. So we expand inward. We fortify. We build." He activated a holographic display showing the Sol system. "We turn our home into a fortress. Hidden weapons platforms on every moon. Defense stations around every planet. Shield networks that can overlap and support each other. If they come for us, they will pay a price so high that even Warlord Korath will think twice." Dr. Yunahan added her part. "We also need to advance our technology. The Concord has grown lazy. They have not truly innovated in centuries because they have no competition. We can catch up. We can surpass them. I propose a crash program. Reverse engineer everything we can buy or steal from black markets. Then improve it." Ambassador Nari Wu smiled grimly. "And we play the long game. The Concord is not loved, they are feared. The junior species serve them because they have no choice. But if we can survive long enough, if we can show that saying no is possible, others might find their courage too." The council voted. The decision was unanimous. Humanity would not run. Humanity would not beg. Humanity would prepare. Over the next 5 years, Earth changed. Factories that once made consumer goods now made warships. Scientists who once studied medicine now studied weapons. Young people joined the military in record numbers, not because they wanted war, but because they wanted to be ready if war came. Commander Jin Su oversaw the construction of the Sol defense grid. It was the largest military project in human history. When it was finished, every planet and moon in the system was protected. Any invasion fleet would have to fight through layer after layer of defenses. The cost would be enormous. Dr. Yunahan's technology program produced results faster than anyone expected. Human engineers did not just copy alien tech. They asked questions the aliens had never thought to ask. Why does this engine work this way? What if we changed this component? What if we combined these two ideas? Within a decade, human ships were faster and tougher than standard Concorde vessels, and quietly, carefully, Ambassador Nari Wu began reaching out. Not to the Concorde or the elder races, but to the junior species. The ones trapped in servitude. The ones who had given up hope. She sent simple messages. We said no. We are still here. You are not alone. Most did not respond. They were too afraid. But some did. Secret communications, hidden meetings, whispers of something that had not existed in the galaxy for a very long time. Hope, back on Nexus Prime, Sage Alara watched the reports come in. Human ships were getting faster. Human defenses were getting stronger. Human messages were spreading to places the Concorde could not easily monitor. She went to High Arbiter Velos with her concerns. They are not collapsing, she said. They are growing. Velos waved his hand dismissively. Growing like weeds in a garden. We will pull them out when the time is right. And when will that be? When they become a nuisance. For now, they are beneath our attention. Ilara bowed and left. But as she walked through the halls of Nexus Prime, she felt a cold certainty in her chest. The Concorde had made a mistake. And by the time they realized it, it might be too late to fix. The humans were not crawling back. The humans were building something, and whatever it was, it would change everything. 10 years passed, then 15, then 20. The galaxy laughed at humanity for refusing the Concorde's offer. News broadcasts across 1,000 worlds showed clips of the human delegation walking out of the Grand Assembly. Commentators mocked them. Comedians made jokes about the brave little monkeys who thought they could survive alone. Children in alien schools learned about humans as an example of what happens when young species let pride overcome wisdom. They will collapse any day now, the experts said. Their economy cannot function in isolation. Their technology is too primitive. Give them another year, and they will come crawling back. But the year passed. And another. And another. Humanity did not collapse. Humanity did not crawl. In the Sol system, the changes were visible from space. Defense platforms orbited every planet and moon. Massive shipyards floated near Jupiter, building vessels that did not match any design in the Concorde's databases. The traffic of human merchant ships increased every year, trading in neutral zones where Concorde law did not apply, and the ships themselves were different. Faster, stronger, built with innovations that confused Concorde intelligence officers. Where did these primitives learn to make engines that efficient? How did they develop shields that could absorb that much damage? The reports made no sense. Commander Jin Su was now Admiral Jin Su. He had spent 2 decades turning humanity's home into a fortress, and he was not finished. Every time his engineers solved one problem, he gave them another. We need to be ready for anything, he told them. Not just what we expect, what we cannot imagine. Dr. Yunahan led the research division that had become the heart of human advancement. She was older now, her hair white, and her movements slow. But her mind was sharper than ever. She had trained a new generation of scientists who thought differently than their alien counterparts. The Concorde species had stopped asking questions centuries ago. They knew everything they needed to know. Why look for more? Humans never stopped asking questions. It was their greatest strength. The Concorde builds what works, Dr. Yunahan explained to her students. We build what could work better. That is why we will win. Ambassador Nari Wu retired from official service, but she never stopped working. From her home on Earth, she managed a network of contacts across the galaxy. Junior species who had signed integration treaties, merchants who were tired of Concorde taxes, scientists who had been silenced for asking the wrong questions. She gathered information. She shared knowledge, and she planted seeds of doubt. The humans are still free, she whispered through 100 hidden channels. If they can do it, why not you? Most species were too afraid to act. The Concorde's punishment for rebellion was total. Entire civilizations had been wiped out for less. But the whispers spread anyway. In dark corners of space stations, in encrypted messages, in conversations held where no one could hear. The idea took root. What if we said no too? High Arbiter Velos heard the rumors and dismissed them. Talk is meaningless, he said. When they actually try to resist, we will crush them as we always have. But Counselor Thren was worried. His trade federation had noticed something disturbing. Profits were down. Not by much. But the trend was clear. Human merchants were offering better deals in neutral space. Some junior species were starting to trade with them instead of the Federation. It was a small leak. But small leaks could sink great ships. We should do something about the humans, Thren said in a private meeting with Velos. They are becoming a nuisance. They are nothing, Velos replied. One small system against the entire galaxy. What can they do? They can inspire, Thren said. Every year they survive. Other species look at them and wonder. That is dangerous. Velos considered this for a moment. Then he shook his head. If we attack them now, we make them important. We prove they were right to resist. Better to let them fade into irrelevance. But they did not fade. 22 years after the humans walked out of the Grand Assembly, the first crack appeared. A species called the Vorath, who had served the Concorde for 600 years, refused to send soldiers for Warlord Korath's latest campaign. They cited ancient laws that had been ignored for centuries. They demanded their treaty be reviewed. Korath was furious. He wanted to burn their homeworld to ash. But Velos stopped him. We cannot punish them too harshly, the High Arbiter said. Other species are watching. We must appear reasonable. So the Vorath were punished economically instead. Their trade routes were blocked. Their exports were taxed at crushing rates. Within 2 years, they were starving. Their leaders came back to the Concorde and apologized. The rebellion was over, but the damage was done. Other species had seen that resistance was possible, even if it failed, and they had seen something else. The Concorde was afraid, not afraid of the Vorath, but afraid of what the Vorath represented, change. 3 years later, 2 more species tried to renegotiate their treaties. They failed too. Korath's fleets destroyed their orbital stations and occupied their capitals. Millions died. The message was clear. Obey or die. But the rebellions kept coming. Small ones, hopeless ones. Each one was crushed. But each one cost the Concorde resources. Ships, soldiers, credits. The great machine of galactic control was starting to strain. Sage Ilara watched it all with growing dread. She had tried to warn them. 20 years ago, she had looked into the eyes of Admiral Quan Te and seen something dangerous. Now that danger was spreading like a virus through the galaxy. She went to Velos one more time. We need to make peace with the humans, she said. Bring them into the Concorde as true partners. Show the galaxy that we can change. Velos stared at her like she had gone insane. Make peace? With primitives who insulted us? Who inspired this chaos? Never. When we have restored order, we will deal with them, and when we do, their punishment will be legendary. Ilara bowed her head. There was nothing more she could say. On Earth, Admiral Quan Te was now an old man. He spent his days in a garden overlooking the ocean, watching the waves and thinking about the future. Sometimes Dr. Yunahan visited him. They drank tea and talked about the old days. Do you think we did the right thing? She asked him once. He was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled. We gave our people a chance to grow, a chance to be free. Whatever comes next, that was worth everything. And if the Concorde comes for us, the old admiral looked out at the horizon. Somewhere beyond that sky, beyond the stars, a great empire was slowly cracking, and somewhere in the darkness between galaxies, something far worse was waking up. Then we will be ready, he said. We have always been ready. He did not know how soon that readiness would be tested. None of them did, but the test was coming, and it would change everything. The void swarm came from the darkness between galaxies. No one knew where they came from or what they wanted. They did not communicate. They did not negotiate. They simply arrived in massive ships that looked like twisted metal hives, and they consumed everything in their path. Planets, stations, fleets. Nothing was spared. The first warning came from a small observation post on the edge of known space. The crew sent a single message before they died. Something is coming. Something hungry. Within a week, 3 frontier colonies were gone. Not conquered. Gone. The Void Swarm did not occupy worlds. They stripped them bare. Every resource, every piece of metal, every drop of water was taken. And the people, the survivors who escaped, described nightmares. Creatures that moved like insects but thought like machines. Swarms of millions that could tear through military armor like paper. The Concord had faced the Void Swarm once before, thousands of years ago. It had taken every fleet in the galaxy to push them back, and billions had died. The histories called it the Dark War. Many species had hoped the swarm was gone forever. They were wrong. High Arbiter Velos called an emergency session of the Grand Assembly. For the first time in decades, he looked worried. The Void Swarm has returned, he announced. All member species are required to contribute ships and soldiers to the defense fleet. This is not a request. This is a command, but the response was not what he expected. Many species sent ships, but not as many as demanded. Others sent excuses. Our fleets are needed for internal security. Our economy cannot support military production. We are still rebuilding from the last rebellion. The junior species, the ones who had been crushed and punished for 20 years of small rebellions, sent the bare minimum. They followed the letter of their treaties, but not the spirit. Their ships arrived late. Their soldiers fought poorly. Their hearts were not in the war. Warlord Korath raged. Cowards, traitors. When this is over, I will burn every one of them. But Sage Ilara spoke the truth no one wanted to hear. They do not fight because they do not believe in us anymore. We broke them. We crushed their hope, and now, when we need them most, they give us nothing. The war went badly from the start. The Void Swarm was endless. For every hive ship destroyed, 2 more appeared. Korath's fleets won battles but lost the campaign. They were being pushed back. System by system, world by world. Counselor Thren calculated the numbers with growing horror. At this rate, the swarm would reach the core worlds within 5 years. Nexus Prime itself might fall within 10. The Concord that had ruled for millennia was facing extinction. It was Sage Ilara who suggested the unthinkable. We must ask the humans for help. The silence in the council chamber was absolute. Then Velos laughed. It was a cold, bitter sound. Ask the humans? The primitives who insulted us? Who inspired 20 years of rebellion? Who have been laughing at our troubles from their little fortress? They have the strongest defenses in the galaxy, Ilara said calmly. Their ships are faster than ours. Their weapons are more advanced. And they have something we lost long ago. Unity. Their people believe in their cause. Ours do not. I would rather die than beg those animals for help. Korath growled. You may get your wish, Ilara replied. But your death will not stop the swarm. Nothing will stop them unless we change. The debate lasted for days. Pride fought against survival. Anger fought against fear. In the end, survival won. High Arbiter Velos, his voice thick with hatred, authorized a message to Earth. The galaxy faces annihilation. We require your assistance. Name your terms. On Earth. Admiral Quante received the message in his garden. He read it twice, then called for Dr. Yunahan. She came immediately, moving slowly but with purpose. Together, they read the words that the Concord had never expected to send. They are desperate, Dr. Yunahan said. They should be, Quante replied. The Void Swarm is not something you defeat with arrogance. It requires sacrifice, cooperation, trust. He shook his head slowly. Things the Concord forgot how to do. What will we tell them? The old admiral was quiet for a long moment. He thought about the day he walked out of the Grand Assembly. He thought about the contempt in Velos's eyes. He thought about 25 years of building, preparing, and waiting. Tell them we will consider it. The Concord waited. Days passed. Then weeks. The Void Swarm consumed another dozen worlds. Billions more died. And still, The humans did not answer. Velos sent another message, more desperate than the first. Please, we are running out of time. Finally, a human ship appeared at Nexus Prime. Not a warship, a diplomatic vessel. Ambassador Nari Wu stepped off the ship with her head held high. She was old now, her hair silver and her face lined with years, but her eyes were the same as they had been 25 years ago. Sharp, determined, and unafraid. You requested our assistance, she said to the Grand Assembly. We have considered your request, and, Velos leaned forward, his ancient face tight with desperation, we will help you. Nari Wu said, but not for free. Not as servants. Not as junior members of your dying empire. She produced a document. A new treaty. The terms were simple, and they would change everything. First, the Concord would dissolve. The old system of elder races ruling over junior species would end. A new Galactic Assembly would be created, where every species had equal voice and equal vote. Second, all integration treaties would be cancelled immediately. Every species that had been forced into servitude would be free. Third, humanity would lead the coalition against the Void Swarm. Not as hired soldiers, as equals, as partners. The hall erupted. Councillor Thren screamed about the destruction of everything they had built. Warlord Korath drew his weapon and aimed it at Nari Wu. I will kill you myself before I accept these terms, but Sage Alara stepped forward. She walked to the center of the platform and stood beside the human ambassador. Enough, she said. Her voice was quiet, but it silenced the hall. We have been fools. For 25 years, we have been fools. These humans showed us what we had become, and we refused to see it. Now the galaxy burns, and we have no one to blame but ourselves. She turned to face Velos. Accept the terms. It is the only way. The High Arbiter's face twisted with rage and shame. For a long moment, no one breathed. Then slowly, he bowed his head. We accept. Ambassador Nari Wu allowed herself a small smile. She thought of Admiral Quan Te, watching from his garden. She thought of Dr. Yunahan, who had worked so hard for so long. She thought of every human who had refused to give up, even when the galaxy laughed at them. Then let us begin, she said. We have a war to win. The war against the Void Swarm lasted 3 terrible years. Human fleets entered the fight within days of the treaty signing. They came in ships that gleamed with new technology, crewed by soldiers who had trained their entire lives for a battle they hoped would never come. At their head was Admiral Park Jae, grandson of Commander Jin Su. He had inherited his grandfather's cold eyes and tactical brilliance. The first battle was at the Koros system, where a Void Swarm hive fleet was about to consume a Concord colony of 2 billion people. Admiral Park Jae's ships arrived just as the alien swarm began its attack. What happened next shocked every species watching. Human weapons were devastating. Their plasma cannons tore through hive ships that had shrugged off Concord fire. Their shields held against attacks that had destroyed the best Concord vessels, and their pilots flew with a precision and aggression that the swarm had never faced before. The battle lasted 18 hours. When it ended, the hive fleet was destroyed. The colony was saved, and the galaxy watched in stunned silence. How? Councillor Thren whispered. How did they become so strong? Sage Alara answered him. 25 years. While we laughed at them, they worked. While we fought each other, they prepared. While we grew lazy and cruel, they grew sharp and united. This is what we created when we tried to make them slaves. The war was not won easily. The Void Swarm was vast and relentless. For every victory, there was a defeat. Human ships burned. Human soldiers died. Entire worlds were lost before help could arrive, but something else happened too. The junior species, the ones who had been freed by the new treaty, began to fight, really fight. Not because they were forced, but because they believed. They had watched the humans defy the Concord and survive. Now they watched the humans fight for a galaxy that had mocked them, and they wanted to be part of it. Warlord Korath, for all his anger, was a brilliant military commander. Under the new alliance, he worked with Admiral Park Jae to develop combined tactics. It was not a friendly relationship. Both men hated each other, but they respected each other's abilities. And in war, that was enough. Dr. Yuna Han did not live to see the end of the war. She died peacefully in her sleep. 2 years into the conflict, surrounded by students who had become masters in their own right. Her research had already changed everything. Human weapons used principles the Concord had never imagined. Human shields operated on frequencies that confused void swarm sensors. Her legacy was written in every victory. Admiral Quan Te also passed away 1 year before the final battle. He died in his garden, watching the sunset over the ocean. His last words were to his great-granddaughter, Captain Minji Quan, who had come to say goodbye. "Do not hate them," he said, speaking of the Concord. "They were wrong, but hate will make us wrong too. Win the war, save the galaxy, and then build something better." Minji promised she would. The final battle came in the 3rd year, at a system with no name, far from any inhabited world. Intelligence had located the Void Swarm's hive core, the central ship from which all commands flowed. Destroy it, and the swarm would lose coordination. Their attacks would become random. They could be hunted down and eliminated. But the hive core was protected by the largest fleet the swarm had ever assembled. Thousands of hive ships surrounded it like a living wall. Any attack would be suicide. Admiral Park Jae developed the plan. It required perfect timing, absolute courage, and a willingness to sacrifice everything. The combined fleets of the new Galactic Assembly would attack from multiple directions. Most of them would die, but if even one ship could reach the hive core and destroy it, the war would be won. Captain Minji Quan volunteered to lead the strike force that would make the final run. The battle began at dawn. As measured by Earth time, thousands of ships clashed in a storm of fire and metal. Warlord Korath led the main assault, drawing the swarm's attention with a ferocity that shocked even his allies. Junior species fleets attacked from unexpected angles, using tactics they had learned from human training programs. And through the chaos, Minji Quan flew. Her ship was called the Horizon's Edge, named after the vessel that had carried her great-grandfather to Nexus Prime 28 years ago. It was the fastest ship in the fleet, armed with weapons designed specifically for this mission. Around her, other ships of her strike force fell one by one, giving their lives to open a path. In the end, only the Horizon's Edge remained. The hive core loomed ahead, a twisted mass of metal and organic material larger than a moon. Void Swarm defenders swarmed around it like angry insects. Minji's ship was damaged. Her shields were failing, half her weapons were gone, but she did not stop. "This is Captain Minji Quan," she said over the open channel. "I am making my final approach. Tell my family I love them. Tell the galaxy we kept our promise." Her ship plunged into the heart of the hive core. The weapon she carried, designed by the successors of Dr. Yuna Han, detonated with the force of a small star. When the light faded, the hive core was gone. And across the galaxy, Void Swarm ships began to drift. Their coordination broken. Their purpose lost. The war was over. Humanity had saved the galaxy. 6 months later, the first meeting of the new Galactic Assembly was held on Nexus Prime. Representatives from every species gathered in the same hall where humans had been dismissed as primitive children. But now, humans sat at the center, not as conquerors, not as rulers, as equals among equals. High Arbiter Velos was gone, retired in disgrace. Counselor Thren had fled to the outer regions, wanted for centuries of corruption. Warlord Korath was dead, killed in the final battle, fighting alongside the humans he had once wanted to enslave. His last words had been a grudging compliment. Not bad, for primitives. Sage Alara remained. She was ancient now, the last of the old leadership. She approached the human delegation with slow, careful steps. Ambassador Nari Wu's daughter, Sora Wu, represented humanity. She had her mother's eyes and her mother's steel. "I have a question," Ilara said. "One that has haunted me for 28 years. Sora nodded. "Ask, why did you save us? After everything we did. After how we treated you. Why did you come when we called?" Sora was quiet for a moment. Then she smiled. The same calm, unreadable expression that had marked every human who stood in this hall. "Because you needed saving," she said. "And because we could. That cannot be the only reason." Sora's smile grew slightly wider. "And because now you will remember. Every species in this galaxy will remember that we did not have to help. We chose to. Not for power. Not for revenge. Because it was right." She paused. "That is who we are. That is who we have always been. We hope you will remember that. The next time you meet a young species asking for friendship." Ilara bowed her head. Tears, an unusual sight for her species, fell from her eyes. "We will remember. I promise you. We will never forget." The assembly ended with a declaration carved into the founding stone of the new galactic order. The words were those spoken by Admiral Quan Te, 28 years ago. When he walked away from chains and toward the stars, we came hoping for partnership. You offered chains. We remembered. Below it, added by unanimous vote, were new words. And when you needed us, we came anyway. That is humanity. The galaxy would never forget.